Hi, this is Everett, Everett's Watercolors. Welcome to my classroom. Today we're going to talk about the color violet. And I got a few things here. I'm broadcasting from Chesapeake, Virginia, and I'm talking to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Twitch. So I hope you all out there will catch me on my video and leave me some comments when you see the video. I'd like to reply to you and find out what you're doing. Gloria's in the studio with me today.
Hello.
And she's checking on the chat room. I'll have the chat going on pretty soon, and also keeping track of the broadcast. What I have today is let me go to the main camera. I gotta turn on something here. Here we go. Yeah, we're going to talk about the color violet or purple violet. This is the Holbein Artist Watercolor paint that I have on my website, everettswatercolors.com. And there's really only 7 violet colors in the inventory. Violet is a combination of red and blue, and I'm wearing a blue shirt with a red undershirt. I don't have a purple tire, so you have to mix the blue and the red to get the violet. So that's the colors I'm wearing today, blue with the red. So what I want to do today is I'm going to go over and we're going to paint pansies. So I've got a little introduction here for you. So let's go over to my painting table. Overhead. And turn that off. Okay. And I'm going to turn on the chat room. Okay, the chat room's on, and I'm going over to my painting table. And turn my light on. Okay, I'm all set to go. Now, first thing I always bring up here is the good old color wheel, and violet sits right in the middle of blue and red. There's a red violet, a blue violet. So that's the colors we're going to be talking about today. Okay. And also notice the opposite color or the complementary color is yellow. Violet and yellow are complementary colors. Okay. So those are very important today. We'll go over those. And I'm going to use a little bit of green today. Let's go over some of my research. I decided today with the color violet that I was going to paint some pansies. So I went on the internet and did some research, and I found some pictures here, some interesting pictures of pansies. And they come in all kinds of colors. There's blue, there's purple, violets, yellows, so forth. Pansies has to be Gloria's one of Gloria's favorite flowers, and that's also why I like to paint these. But you can see here, there's even some red ones back here. So different varieties of violets. So that's why I chose this particular subject matter to do with the color violet today. And as far as composition, I found that I said, well, I'm going to do the flowers in a pot. Okay, so I needed a picture of this. So I got this one down from the internet also. And I said, well, there's a little empty space over here. So I found another picture of another pot of the pansies. So I took these 2 pictures and combined them, and I came up with my composition. So my composition is going to be 2 pots of pansies and the background. So this is my drawing, and this is my value study. So this is what I'm going to be painting to. Now let's go over some of my colors I'm also going to be using. I always do a color study. I make a color chart to get started. Up here, now the first color I'm going to use, and on my palette, is going to be Quinacridone Violet. It's a beautiful color. And what I did here, add a little bit of water to it so it lightens it up. Then I mixed it with blue, Ultramarine Blue, That gives me a nice violet right here. And then I mix a little bit of red with it. It gives me a red violet. So I've really got the whole combination here. I got a very light value of violet. I've got a dark value of violet with a little more leaning toward blue. And then I have a red violet here with, this is Alizarin Crimson. So my Ultramarine Blue is up here, my Alizarin Crimson is here, and then my Quinacridone Violet's here. Those three colors. So those three color combinations are going to give me the painting today in violet. Then I took the other primers. I took the Ultramarine Blue and I mixed it in with the red. So blue mixed in with red also gives me a nice dark violet. So this is Ultramarine Blue. This is mixed in with the Alizarin Crimson. Gives me a nice, really a nice dark violet. The other colors I'm going to use, of course, is lemon yellow here. Lemon yellow down the bottom of my left of my palette. Be lemon yellow. I'm going to mix that in with Ultramarine Blue to give me some green. I have a little bit of green here in the painting today. And there's also going to be some little bit of colors. I'm using yellow ochre down here in the corner of the palette, and also burnt sienna. Now, before I got started, I took those photographs and I did some brush work here. So I did some studies here how to paint a pansy. So these are really, if I was going to paint a pansy, this is sort of the way I would paint them. And I use the color mixtures of above. But here I was practicing brush strokes on getting the shape and so forth. You can see the pansy itself has got basically five petals in it. It's got a forward petal, 2 side petals, and then 2 back petals. So actually there's five separate little petals on a pansy. Here's another one here of 5, and of course the yellow. So that's really the configuration of a pansy. And the leaves look something like this. That's another important thing, the greenery. And I looked at the configurations. I like the configuration of blue with a dark purple here, and I like this yellow with the purple in the center. And these flowers over here are all blue or all red, reddish violet, with a little bit of yellow in the center. So those are kind of the combinations I'm going to use in the painting today. The other thing I wanted to point out was when I mix Quinacridone Violet with the lemon yellow, you can see I get a gray. It's really a warm gray right here. So every time you mix the complements, violet and yellow, you're going to get a gray mixture. And it happens to be a warm gray. Okay, now to get started today, what I've done, I've prepared, there's a lot of background here. I've got background trees, I've got a middle ground here with grass, and I've got a foreground here of a tabletop with the two flower pots on. So there's a lot of background I had to paint in here, and a lot of green and yellows and so forth. And here's where I used the burnt sienna and yellow ochre here. So what I did an advanced video, and I'm going to turn it on right now. So I'm going to play the video, which is going to show you how I prepared the background and the foreground of this painting. And it'll show you the steps. So I'm going to turn on the video. So here it goes. Okay, this is the painting this is the painting part I'm going to do. I'm going to do this ahead of time. This is the sketch that I showed you earlier on my sketch plan. And here I put it on the Holbein watercolor paper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint in the background and some of the foreground because this takes a while to dry. So I'm going to go and do that as a preliminary exercise. But I'm going to put it here on film so you can see what I did. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the background here, which is a row of trees. I'm going to use the Hake brush, the large Hake brush with just water. And I'm going to pre-wet the background, wet the paper. I'm going to do a little wet on wet technique here. I'm going around the flowers and everything here. I'm just getting the background. And this is one area, but it's just, it takes a while for it to dry. So I want to go ahead and get this done before the demonstration. But I will also want to have it on film so you can see how to do it. So I re-wet the paper around the edges. And it gives me a nice way to flow the paint. And I have a quill brush large quill brush, which I want to use, and I also use the real natural hair black velvet brush, number 8. So I'm going to go ahead and mix up a little bit of green number 1, which will be a primary part of the back. Just a little bit of green number 1. Make a nice big load because I'm going to cover the area. And I might put a little bit, just a touch of yellow in there to make it a yellow green. So yeah, whenever I use green, I always mix it with some other color. I never use it right out of the tube, right out of the palette. I always put another color with it to give me a little variety and keep it from being the same. All right, so that paper's wet, so I'm going to go ahead and start putting in some color. I'm adding the green number 1 mixture into the background trees, and this is just a quick application here of the color, getting around the flowers. So let's get started with a nice background color, which I'll put some more detail on it here in a few moments. But this is the base coat. So I'm going around the edges. Very important I control the edges here. So I'll turn the page a little bit so I can make sure I got in my drawing. Be careful going around those flower tops. Okay. Now, the reason I'm doing it ahead of time because now I'm going to dry it, and it takes a while to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and use my blow dryer. And, I'm going to let this dry, and I'll come back. So I'll stop the film for a second until I dry. It's partially dry. It's still good. It's still damp. But one reason I'm going to start again is I'm going to put a little bit of extra green. I'm going to put green number 2 now, a little darker green, maybe a little bit of Hooker's green, and I'll pick up a little bit of burnt sienna. Okay, with that darker mix, I'm going to paint little details, a little more interest in texture in the background, just showing the trees, and the little small bushes back there. So kind of break up that first colorful wash I put down with the yellow and the green in the background. So this gives me a chance to add. I left the paint a little bit damp, but just enough to give it a little flow. But this will give me a nice textured background. Here I'm very careful with the edges again, using that small brush, my black velvet brush, going around those flowers. And the edges are very important. So finish this up, and we'll get to the next phase. Okay, now I'm going to take the small brush, the number 6 round black velvet, and mixing a little bit of burnt sienna. And I'm taking that burnt sienna mixture and I'm painting in some tree trunks here in the background. That gives me a little more detail, a little more interest here in a simple background, and along with those green trees and so forth, adding in those tree trunks gives it a special look. But I want to keep it simple. I don't want to get too complicated back there. Just to indicate that the trees are back there and give it some little interest and a little configuration in the background. But not a lot of detail. Not a lot of detail. Keep the background simple. Okay, now second part is going to be the background behind the flower. This is really a lawn. So again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do this ahead of time. I'm going to fix. I'm going to use some of the same colors, but a little more yellow involved here. So I'm going to mix up some more of that green number 1, and I'm using the quill brush, the large quill brush. Green number 1, I'm going to put a little more yellow in this mixture. In the trees, I put just a touch of yellow, but here I'm going to use a lot more yellow. This will be a yellow-green mixture. Okay, there's the mix. I'm going to use the hake brush again, the large hake, and I'm going to wet the area for the grass. Okay, wetting down the grass area with the hake brush loaded with water. Going trimming around those flowers again and around the flower pots. The hake full of water gives a nice way to spread a lot of moisture around and get that middle ground damp enough so I can go in and paint in with the color mixture I have. And using the edge of the brush gives me a little bit of control around some of the detail. Now taking that yellow-green mixture, going into the middle ground and painting that grass color. And I chose a little more yellow color in here because the yellow is a complementary color of violet. So that yellow is going to make those going to make the violet and the blue flowers really pop out a little more. So I'm always conscious with the value, how light and how dark it is, and also with the color, so I will get a nice contrast. That's about the only control we have as artists, is to control the value and control the contrast. In this case, we're getting a lot of light versus dark, and we're also getting the color contrast of the yellow versus the violet and blue. So that's the purpose of the middle ground, is to set off those flowers. And I think this will really do a good job here. So going around the edges a little bit there, finishing up the middle ground with the yellow, green grass. Okay, it's dry, and now I'm going to do one more section here, which is the foreground here, which is this large bench here that the pots are on. And again, it's going to take a large area, so I'm going to start here. Let me clean up the green, and I'm going to mix up a new color. And use the quill brush again. I'm going to mix up a little bit of burnt sienna and yellow ochre. This would be a color of wood. So the wood bench here, or the wood table. Little wood color. I'm going to make it darker, a little darker foreground. I need a lot, so I'm mixing up a large quantity here. Yellow ochre and burnt sienna. It'd be a nice light tan color. I use this for also bee scenes and so forth, but it'll work very nicely here. And maybe a touch of blue, just to darken up just a touch of blue in there. Remember, watercolor dries lighter. Watercolors dry lighter, so you have to mix a little bit darker than you think you need. Same thing, I'll use the hake brush. I'm going to wet this foreground. I'm wetting around the foreground here with this table, and also watching the little details I have here lying here. So using the edge of the brush and the corner of the brush, wetting this down just like I did the other sections of the painting. So pre-wet this area with water using the hake. Get it nice and wet, and then picking up the burnt sienna mixture with the quill brush. And I'm going to cover this area very rapidly with lots of color. And this will be the darker area in the foreground, but it'll also set off those pots and flowers and so forth. So this gives me a little extra color here in the foreground. Got all that green and yellow there in the middle ground and background, but this burnt sienna gives it a little different color, and also a little relief from all that green and everything. But it's very complementary. Burnt sienna has a little bit of red in it, so the red and green go together very nicely. Another complement color. Always thinking of complements. The burnt sienna with red against the yellow-green, green mixture. Very compatible. Now I'm using a smaller brush here for detail, going around little edges here, keeping the edges nice and clean. And that's what the small brush does. That black velvet brush does a great job on detail. Here I'm cutting out a little bit of the shapes here on the table, going around the corners and so forth, trying to save these areas here for later on. But, that sable brush with the fine point gets me into small details, and gives me a chance to keep it nice and clean and nice control. So I get around those edges with the burnt sienna, and here we are, a little extra space over here. So that'll make the tabletop clean with a nice color of wood. That'll show off the flower pots and the flowers. Okay. Well, welcome back. That video I put that together because it took a while to dry everything between stages and so forth. So it's a preliminary. So let me go over my colors here. I read them off before, but I'm using Quinacridone Violet, Alizarin Crimson, Ultramarine Blue, Yellow Lemon, Yellow Ochre, burnt sienna I've already used, and I saw in the preliminary painting, the preliminary video there. But later I'm going to be using green number 1 and some of the leaves and so forth. So the combination of blue and red is going to give me the violet. That's the most important thing. And of course, yellow is the complementary color. So those are the colors I'm using today, and they're on my palette laying out here that I've shown before. So what I'm going to do now, let's go ahead and start mixing up some colors. So this is the end result of what you saw in the video of all the colors. Now the two brushes I use, this is the I love this brush here. This is a nice quill brush, and actually natural hair. It's a large quill brush. It's a number 8 large, and this is my go-to number 8 brush from Silver Brush, which is a black velvet brush. Which these are all both natural hair. So what I'm going to do now is mix up this. I got two pots here. This one over here on the left, the smaller one. I'm going to mix up a violet using Ultramarine Blue and Alizarin Crimson. And I'm going to lean it toward the blue side. So this would be more of a blue-violet. This blue-violet. This is a combination of Ultramarine Blue and Alizarin Crimson. And it makes a beautiful violet color. Now I'm going to put a little darker over here to show that there's a little, possibly, this is the shadow side, so I'm going to make this side a little bit darker. So I'm going to blend in a little darker blue over here on this edge of the pot. And while the first wash was still a little bit wet, it's easy to blend these two in very nicely, wet on wet. And I'll take the smaller brush and I'll clean up the edge here. I'll take the black velvet and come around here and just do a nice smooth edge. And I'm checking my painting here just to check to see the angle of everything. Make sure lying flat on the table. Okay, that's a good start. This one over here, I'm going to paint. This one here, I'm going to paint. I'm going to take Quinacridone Violet. I'm going to add a little bit of the red to it, which is the Alizarin Crimson. So this is going to be a more reddish violet. So this will be violet with a little bit of red tone to it. And you can see the difference in the colors here. I'm making this a little bit brighter. And also to make it different to show again today we're looking at violet. So I'm using the opportunity here to paint these flower pots in the primary colors of violet. Violet is a secondary color, mixture of blue and purple, or blue and red. And as an artist, it's always convenient to be able to mix your colors on the palette. And when I go painting plein air, I mix the colors on site depending on what I'm painting to match the scenery and to match the subject that I'm painting. Here I'm making these colors up because they're just to make them colorful, but also to use the mixtures of the blue and red to come up with these colors. And I'm going to make this a little bit darker here on this side to show a little bit of shadow and give a little bit of depth, a little bit of volume to this pot. And all these pots are really not the main characters here. They're main characters of the flowers. But I want to start out with the pots because they're big, take up a lot of room, and I want to get those colors really started on these two areas here. And I'll take the smaller brush now and clean up the edge. And I'm painting a little bit faster than I normally would here, just because this is a demonstration, and I want to demonstrate the painting of these flowers and also the mixtures that I'm using. So I would take a little more time on some of this actually painting before. Okay, so now we'll go into the flowers. Now the first one over here, I'm going to concentrate a little bit more on the red. So what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to use the same brush, the quill brush. I'll probably use these two brushes to do the whole painting, basically. I'm going to put some of this reddish violet. So this is going to be an impressionistic flowers. I'm not trying to look for realism. I showed you the stroke analysis I did on what I do a study on what a pansy looks like, just so I got the characteristics of it. But then when I go to paint, I like to do it, give it a little more individuality. So this is really going to be an impressionistic flowers. You get the idea. It's a pansy with its shape and so forth, and that's all I want to get across. I want to get across the impression. And I'm trying to vary the colors. I'll put a blue in there now. I'm going to make this a little more red. A little more red tone on this one. I showed those pictures in the very beginning of today of how many colors you can find. There's so many colors out there. The pansies they come in all kinds of colors. But primarily it's the violets, the blues, and the reds. They'll come in oranges. And now I'm going to get a tone more and more of that red in there. So I'll come down here on this side with a little bit of red violet. It's not pure red. It's like a red with a little bit of quinacridone violet mixed in with it to give it a red tone. So there's a reddish violet. And this one out here, there's one hanging off the edge. Now this red also, reason I'm picking the red here is that it's a nice contrast with the green of the grass. So I can go two ways here. I got the I can go with a contrast of red against green with a flower, red flower against the green grass, or I can go with the yellow. So I'm going to pick up another brush. Now this is a smaller quill brush, and I'm going to pick up the lemon yellow. One of my favorites, along with the purple. I love the purple pansy, but one of my favorites is the yellow pansies, the bright yellow with the purple centers, and this is what this is going to be. This is going to be the show off. It's going to be the show off flower right here. This one, right, this yellow pansy. That's the main character over here on this pot. Nice big yellow pansy there, and a little companion on the side over here. Two yellow pansies. So I'm just putting in the basic shape. Now this is just, I'm going to go back in and put the centers in later when it dries a little bit. Okay. Okay, I'll go back to the bigger brush now. I'm going to put over here. I'm going to put a little more. This one here, I'm going to put a little more red. Now, I'm putting the red next to the green. I'm using the complementary colors to make the painting a little more interesting. So I'm putting a red. The Alizarin Crimson is really all red up here, and I'm putting it against that green background. Maybe to give a little more interest, a little more contrast. And then I'm going to switch to the blue and a light purple. So this was a lighter purple. So that light against the dark here, I got a lighter flower against a darker flower. Again, give us some interest, variety. It's a light, almost a lavender, but it's a light violet, light color next to that darker color. Now I'm going to go back to my yellow combination using my lemon yellow. I'm going to put another yellow flower over here. And now I'm putting that yellow next to this violet, which is the contrast. The yellow is the complement of violet. And by putting violet next to that purple, really make it show off. So here I'm using contrasting colors between the two flowers, the purple against the violet. Over here I was using the red against the green of the background. So I'm using those complementary colors to give me interest and a little more colorful arrangement. So as an artist, the only two things we have to play with, and I've said this before, is really value and contrast. The colors will speak for themselves, but you can't just have color without contrast, and you can't have color without the value. And by putting the complementary colors next to each other, it brings out the best in both. This one up here, I think I'll put a light red, a light reddish. That's the wrong color. All right. Now, when you pick up a wrong color, you got to take it out. So I take a clean tissue, take it right out. The brush had yellow in it, so I'll pick up my red brush, and I want to put a reddish purple, or a red, a little bit of purple in it. We'll put another. This again, I'm mixing up these. I'm mixing the violet differently each time. I'm putting a different mixture of red and blues together, so that gives me a different color every time I make the mixture. They're not all the same. There's a little differentiation between all of them. And this one out here, I'm going to put a little bit of blue into it. Put a bluish violet, a blue violet color up here, little one. And I'll go back a little bit more to a red, a little reddish violet here. So I'm using a combination of the red and blue and making different mixtures here, really on the fly. And it's kind of fun to just pick up the paintbrush and come up with colors. Now, next to this yellow one now, I'm going to put more purple. A little more purple next to this one to make that yellow come out. And I think I'll put one more blue one over here. Wash out the brush. Okay. All right, now down here on the table, this is a little pruning tool here to prune the flowers, and that's what's here. I can put some color on that, but these are some pansies laying here on the table, so I'm going to go ahead and put some color in there. So the first one I'm going to mix up with, I'll use the red, the Alizarin Crimson. I'll mix it in a little bit of Ultramarine Blue. I want to pick up a little bit of there. That's what I want. That's the Quinacridone Violet. Quinacridone Violet mixed with a little bit of blue. That's what I want. Okay. That's the color I'm going to put in here. Quinacridone Violet is the only violet I have on my palette. There's 7 colors that I showed you in the beginning that Holbein has. They're different hues, different colors of violet, and there it goes. Okay, and I'm going to put one more. Put one more over here. There'll be a lighter value over on this side. And then I'm going to put one of my favorites again. The other favorite one I have is the blue one, the dark, the really deep blue with the yellow centers. I love those too. Those are beautiful colors. They're blue violets with the yellow centers. They're beautiful. So it's really a toss-up between the yellow pansy and the purple pansy. They make a nice combination. When you put the yellow one next to the purple one, they both stand out. And this one down here, I'm going to make that blue one. I'm going to put the blue one down here. It's just all blue. So this is a impressionistic painting of the flowers. I showed you in the beginning that there's I practiced the strokes and the shapes of the flowers, and that was not my intent to paint a perfect pansy, because you just take a look at the photographs and you can come up with that. I'm trying to come up here with an interesting combination of colors and ideas about the pansy colors. And down here, I think I'll let this dry just a little bit more. I'm gonna start working a little bit on the pots. I gotta put some grass in there. So I'm gonna take the green number 1. And remember, I never mix a color all by itself. Other than here, I tried to break out, but I try to mix a green in with other colors. I'll take the green, and I'll pick up a little bit of blue, and even a little bit of that yellow. But over here, I'm going to put in the greenery. So this all fills in. I'll take a bigger brush here too. This quill brush holds a lot of paint, and it covers a big area very quickly. So I'll be able to get that greenery in there real quickly. So here I'm putting in the the leaves and the stalks and so forth that are inside the flowers, inside the flower pot. It also it also help define the edges of the flowers. By putting the green around there, it breaks up those colors a little bit. Okay. Green also helps uh, define the flower and also gives a little more color. And what I'll do now with that green, I'm also going to put some a little bit of maybe some stems out here hanging out, some leaves hanging out of the flower pot. Just an indication, just a impressionistic view. Yeah. And let's see, we'll put some more over here. I'm going to go ahead and put a bunch of greenery over here because it's all leaves and stalks. So we'll put this in. So I start out with a base coat to get the color down. In this case, the green. Get the green started. Then I go back in and I can add little darks and other marks with the brush for definition. But basically, just to get the colors down, I put some greenery up in here. This breaks up the flower shapes a little bit, so they all don't look the same. Put some color in there. And pick up a little bit of sometimes the color gets a little bit wet and gets attracted by that. I found a long time ago that watercolor is attracted by water. So if you have something that's wet or damp and you bring watercolor around it, it's going to join in very quickly. Okay. This flower over here, I can make it just a little bit bigger here. I'm checking my formation here of the flower pot. This just not that significant at this point. I'm going to take my smaller brush now. I'm going to go ahead and put in a little bit of colors around the edges. So what I'm doing now is I'm reducing some of those white areas. There's nothing wrong with the white paper. Just I don't want to cover all of it because I like a little sparkle in my paintings. I like a little sparkle, but not too many polka dots. Just here and there. But I want to cover up those edges a little bit so that they merge together a little bit better. And around this flower up here. And nothing wrong with the green merging in with the purple because it does, the colors do tend to merge together, which makes an interesting combination. Okay, I'll let that dry just a little bit. Now there's only one little thing I want to work on down here, and that's this little tool down here, which is the trimmer, the pruner. It's a pruning tool to prune the flowers. And I'll put the colors in. It's got a yellow handle. Which goes very well with the purple flowers, the yellow handle, and yellow against the blue also. Blue and yellow goes together those are navy colors, yellow and gold and blue. This is yellow and blue, gold and blue, navy colors. Scarlet and gold is the Marine Corps colors. So there's a lot of combinations here that can be done. Okay, let me take a little bit of that dark blue, and I'll put there's a little bit of handle on this, so I'll put a dark blue in here. A bit of handle. A little dangerous here because I'm working around this wet area, which could blend together very easily. And then I'm going to mix up a real quick gray, and that's just a little bit of burnt sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue. It's got more blue in it, but it's what happens there? Burnt sienna tones down the ultramarine and gives you a nice gray. And what I'll do is I want to paint. This is like the middle part of the pruner. The pruning tool has got a middle part here, so I'll make it a light gray color. Comes to a point. And I'll take a dry brush and pick up some of the extra paint there, so it doesn't get so dark. That's good enough. Okay, now the last step I want to do now is I want to go in and put these centers in. That's the best part I like about. Before I do that, let's see. I want to try something here. I want to take. Yeah. Oh, okay. Hi, Steve. Good to see you. Glad to see the families there and watching the show. I'm glad to see families enjoying the broadcast. Now, here's what I'm going to take I'm taking a palette knife and I'm just going to draw in some stems. And what this does, well, the paper is wet. When you drag it in there, it creates a dark mark. And that dark mark will indicate the impression of stems. So I'm going to do that while it's still wet. So I was waiting for it to get a little bit drier. I still wanted it wet, but I wanted to have a little bit drier before I did that. So what that does, it creates a depression in the paper. The paper's wet. So what you're really making a depression in the paper, and then the paint's filling that depression. So it gives these lines. It creates the lines then from the paint that's on the paper. You can already see that, okay? And let's see. Let me dry this. I want to dry this and I'll go back and put the centers in. I'm going to turn on the air dryer. Okay. Okay, that's a little touch-up time. So I'm going to take the yellow lemon, and that goes into the center of these purple flowers. And this is just this is a yellow lemon right basically out of the tube. It's just out of the palette. And over here, put a little yellow one here, and then also some of these flowers have dark centers. So I can take the ultramarine blue and put some dark centers. So there's lighter flowers with dark centers, and there's lighter flowers with or excuse me, the other way around. Light flowers with dark centers, and Now here's the one I really like. This is like a reddish purple. I'm going to use the black velvet brush with a nice fine point. And this I'm going to put in there the purple center. This is the one I love. This one here has those purple strokes and streaks in there. This is the one this is the one of my favorite ones. The yellow flower. This one over here just a little turning to the side. And while I got that color on my brush, I'll go over here and get these. These little strokes here makes a big difference. Just a little indication. Little fine strokes is all. I mean, in a painting, that's all. Sometimes that's all it takes. Is a couple strokes makes a big difference in a painting. Just a few ideas. This one here really is going to show off these flowers a little bit over here. And while I'm here, I'm going to take that yellow. Watch out the brush. When you're changing colors, make sure you watch out the brush because you'll get it dirty real quickly. You'll learn that lesson real fast when you go to paint. You'll find out why I have a muddy color. It's because you haven't washed out the brush. I'll put some dark centers over here. So I'm really using the artist license here on this. I'm just putting different values and different colors here on these pansies. Because some of them will have light centers, some of them dark centers. It really doesn't matter. A little bit of yellow down here. Now these on the bottom, I don't want to forget those. These will have a yellow center here. So a little bit of yellow here. And these are my two favorite ones. I got the dark blue with the yellow center. This is one of my favorites. The really dark blue here. And the last one but not least is the yellow with the purple. Okay, and yeah, the last thing I want to do is just touch up a little bit of the greenery. I have this green. Picked up a little bit of blue in it. Green number 1 with a touch of ultramarine blue. I'm going to go in and put just a little darker mix here of the green with some leaves hanging out a little bit. So put a little bit of darker color in here. And over here I can darken, put a little more shadow, like a shadow color. So it's a little darker underneath the flowers. So just kind of break that color up a little bit. Okay, even in the background, I can kind of put a little more dimension back here on the trees and the bushes. So while I got the brush, while I still got paint in the brush, I can use that just to kind of finish off the background a little bit. Okay. All right. Okay, that concludes the demonstration. Now I'm going to show you one more painting here now. I did an earlier painting of the same configuration, and I took a little more time on it. I took a little more time on the flowers and so forth. And I also what I did, I added a shadow pattern, which I didn't want to do on this one, but I added a shadow pattern coming across the pots. So I added that across the flowers and so forth. But basically the configuration was the same. I took a little more time on some of this, But basically, and I added the boards on the table and so forth. A little bit of shadow below. But those things are very easy to do. A little bit of burnt sienna mixed in with a little bit of burnt with ultramarine blue. Now that's the shadow underneath the table, underneath the tabletop. And then with a thin brush, I'm going to turn this a little bit to the side and just paint in the little bit of lines on the table. Very simple. Just a simple stroke with a small brush. All this does is it breaks up that shape a little bit. That's all it's for. Just a little definition, a little decoration here on the table to show that these boards are here. And one more. Go right down here, right across the flowers. Just an indication. And remember, this is an impressionistic painting, so it's just an impression. Okay. Well, what I'm going to do is take that other painting. It's still wet. So I'm going to take this paint here that's dry. And, let's put a mat around it. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, so if I come over here and put this up on a board. Yeah, we put it on the board, straighten it up a little bit. Let's put a mat around it. Yeah, and voila! I think it turned out to be a nice painting. So let me turn off my light here. I'm going to take you back to the main camera. Okay. The main camera is coming up, and be right on there. Hi. Okay. Okay. Well, that was hey, I got a few people on today talking to me, and that's nice to see. Alice and Steve, good to see you. And I saw Andrew and Gloria was on. And see who else we have on there.
William.
And Thurston. And who was the other one, dear?
William.
William? Mm-hmm. Hey. Well, it was all nice to see. There's another one there. I can't make out the name. Mackenzie? McKeezy? McKeezy. Nice. Okay. All right. Well, that's nice to see you all. And I'm so glad you all signed in and checked out the video. And I hope you enjoyed that. And pass the word along to your friends and let them know that I broadcast every Thursday at 2 o'clock. And I have lots of videos on my website, everettswatercolors.com. I got all my past videos are on there. You can find them all on YouTube, but they're on my website to go and see them all conveniently. So I appreciate the comments. I appreciate you being on today and signing in. And I'll be back again next week at 2 o'clock. Thursday, 2 o'clock.
Bye.
Bye.